Okay, what are we going to learn? Okay, we are going to learn what is a Cartesian plan. Then after that, we'll learn the meaning of linear graph. Then we'll learn how to draw the linear graph and how to form a linear equation, followed by how to solve the linear equations that involve more than two. Okay, more than one linear equation at the same time in order to get the x and y value. And lastly, we are going to apply the simultaneous equation concept into break-even analysis, okay, in the business real world. So these are the areas that we are going to cover for today's lecture. Okay, quite straightforward now. Okay, so let us try to start with section 1, 5.1, Cartesian plan. You must be very familiar with this Cartesian plan. So what is the meaning of Cartesian plan? Actually, Cartesian plan consists of the x and the y axis, whereby x-axis is represented by using a horizontal line. Okay, so x-axis is a horizontal line with a scale, some scaling, and then the y-axis is referred to the vertical line with also some scaling as well. Okay? And the intersection point between the x and the y-axis is called as the origin point. Origin point. Okay, that is the intersection point between the x and the y-axis. And at this origin point, the coordinates is equal to 0, 0. That means the x value is equal to 0. The y value is also equal to 0. At the origin point, where is that? It's here. Okay, the middle point here is called as the origin point. Okay. And at this point, x is equal to 0. Y is also equal to 0. So how are we going to present this point? How to present? So usually we'll just put bracket and then write down the value of x and also value of y. So in this case, we'll just put 0, 0 for the origin point. All right. So the first 0 is for the x value, and then the second 0 is for the y value. So far so good, huh? Okay. So on the right hand side of the x, on the y-axis, on the right hand side of the y-axis, we may find that all of the x values are positive number. Okay. On the right hand side of the y-axis, all of the x values are positive numbers. And on the left hand side of the y-axis, all of the x values are negative numbers. That means below than 0. Okay. And above the x-axis, above the x-axis, all of the y values are above 0, positive number. Okay, and below the x-axis, all of the y values are negative numbers. So far okay for you, I think you learned this one in your Form 4 syllabus. Okay, next is how are we going to use this Cartesian plan in order to draw a line, for instance. So, okay, we'll start with the basic one, which is the linear equation first, linear line. What's the meaning of linear line? A linear line is a straight line. Okay, linear line is a straight line. If the power number of the unknown variable is 1, then that is a linear line. We already learned in last chapter when the unknown variable of a power have maximum power number of 1, then that is a linear equation. Okay. So in order to draw a linear line, we need at least 2 coordinates. Coordinate means 2 points. Okay. We need to jot down at least 2 points in order to draw a linear line. Like this is a linear line, all right? So this line, we already given how many coordinates? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 coordinates or 5 points given for this line. Okay, then how do we know? An equation is a linear line. Okay, so usually a linear line has a standard format, which is equal to y is equal to x plus z. This is the standard format of linear line. The y, this y is referred to the dependent variable. Okay, it's a variable whereby the value is depends on other variables, other x or other variables. So this is called as a dependent variable. And x is the independent variable. Independent variable means is the variable whereby the value is not depends on others. Okay, it's independent. It's not depends on others. So that is x. Okay. Then how about this n here? The n here is referred to the coefficient of x power 1. The coefficient of x. And the other name of coefficient is, for this case, is also referred to the gradient or slope of an equation. This n, in fact, is able to help us to identify the slope or gradient of a linear equation. Okay. And we use n to represent this slope. So how is the formula in order to calculate the gradient or slope? There is a formula for linear equation. The formula is equal to the first y value from your first point of coordinate minus the second y value of your second point, divided by the first x coordinate minus the second x coordinate. Okay. Then your n value, it can be negative number, can be 0, can be positive number. Okay. If your n value is positive number, that means the linear line will form a positive slope. It's going to have a positive slope, just like this red line. Okay, you may find that, okay, this equation, the n value is 1/2 positive, right? So that means it's positive number, the n is positive number. So this will tell you, this line will give you a positive slope. Okay, or provide a positive slope. If the n value is negative number, like this one, you see this n is negative, negative 1. The n value is negative 1 for the blue line. So that means this line will give a negative slope. Okay. What happens if the n is equal to 0? How is the line will look like? If n is equal to 0, if n is equal to 0, that means no slope, no gradient, right? So how is the line will look like? The linear is still a straight line, but will be like this, right? No slope. If n is equal to 0, that means it's like this. Okay, no slope. Horizontal. Okay, C here is the mean of C. C is the intersect, that is the point whereby the linear line will pass through the y-axis. Okay, that is the line. That is the point whereby the linear line will pass through the x-axis. Okay, so for instance, this red, this line, let's say this line, the C value is 2, right? So that means that this line will pass through the y-axis at the point of y equal to 0, y equal to 2, okay? Here, which is here. So 2 is here. So how about this line? This line you may find that, okay, the C value is 5, right? So that means this line will pass through the y-axis at the point of y equal to 5 positive. Okay. So that means the C value will tell you the location of the point whereby the linear line will pass through the y-axis. Okay. So this is the usefulness of C, and also the n value. So what's good? Okay, next. Okay, let us try to calculate the n value first. I learn how to calculate the slope for a linear line. If 2 points are given, okay, if 2 coordinates are given, how are we going to calculate the gradient, which is the m? Okay, so let's say now we have 2 coordinates given, which are 2, 5, and also -2, -3. Okay, probably we can give a name for these 2 coordinates. Okay, a symbol to represent each coordinate before we start using the formula, right? Since, okay, these points are given to us first, right? Maybe we can just let this as like the x1 equals to 2, all right? And the second, okay, and then the first y value, which is y1, is equal to 5 positive, right? And this is the second x value, so we use x2 equals to -2. Right? And then the second y value is equal to -3, y3. This is additional step. If you don't show, it's fine. It's okay. But I just want to inform you that, okay, which one is x1, which is y1. So this one I use underscript. Okay, all right. So once we have decided, then we can copy the formula. Okay, of the formula list in order to get the n value. So formula is y1 minus y2 divided by x1 x minus x2, right? So x1, y1, okay, is equal to 5. So I put here, yeah. Minus is originally from the formula itself. Okay. Y2 is minus 3. So I put here. Okay. Denominator x1 is 2 minus x2 is minus 2. Okay. So simplify now. Numerator. So this is 5 minus negative 3. So 5 minus negative 3 becomes 5 plus 3. Okay. So it is equal to 8. Denominator is 2 minus negative 2 becomes 4, which is 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 positive. So simplify, I get 2 positive. Okay, answer is 2. So that means it's a positive slope. Okay, so that means these 2 points, if we form a straight line, they'll give a positive slope. Okay. So once we know the n value, right, we can also calculate the c value if we want. If we want to know the c value, we can also calculate the c value once we know the m. Okay, even though the question does not ask us to do so, but if you want to get the c value, how to do so? Yeah. If you want to know the c value, how can you do so is, okay, you can just choose this as the x, this is the y, this is the m, and then substitute into the, okay, so if you want to know the c, how do we know that is equal to, y is equal to 2x plus 1? Okay. Do you know the m, right? And then the standard format of the, as we know, the standard format of the linear equation is equal to y equals mx plus c. Okay, I insert the equation now. This is extra thing, right? I use other color. Okay. Since we already know the m value and x and y value for both coordinates already given, then from here, in fact, we can identify what is the c value so that we can form the linear equation. Okay. So which y value do you want to substitute? You can either use 2, this 5 positive, or use negative 3. I'll try to choose positive number. In order to minimize the negative number, I prefer to choose this point as the x and y value. Okay, positive number. Okay, so I'll choose 5 to represent the y. M is 2, right? We already calculated just now, so 2, put here 2. X, okay, since we already choose this number as y, so that means the x value, we should choose this value, right? 2. Okay. So from there, we are able to identify the c value. Simplify this. So 5 is equal to 4 plus c. Okay, so that means c is equal to, this one is a small letter of c. Okay, so have to move 4 to the left hand side because minus 4. Answer is equal to 1. Okay, c is equal to 1. So once we know the c and also the n value, straightforward, we can make the conclusion about the linear equation. What is the name of this linear equation that can be formed if we join these 2 coordinates? So answer is equal to y equals 2x plus 1. Okay. So you just need to substitute the n value is from here, 2, right? The c value is from here, 1. Substitute here. So this is the name of the linear equation that will join these two coordinates. Okay. That will join these two coordinates. This is the name of the linear equation. So in order to form the linear equation, you need to have the n and also the c. Okay, so some students may ask, in the school, I think you may need, okay, some of you may use another formula, like for this m here. Instead of putting y1, okay, some of the school may use this formula, but just like the sequence is putting y2 in front, followed by y1. It's also okay, it's fine. Huh? Okay, let's say, okay, if you don't want to use this formula, okay, you prefer to use y2 minus y1, let's say, okay. If I'm using y2 minus y1, then that means for your new denominator, then you also have to start from x2. Okay? Then you have to start from x2 minus with x1. Okay, have to follow the sequence. If your numerator is start from y2, that means your denominator also have to start from x2. Okay? Be consistent. So both formula are accepted. Okay, you can use either one of the formula. You'll get the same answer for the m. Okay, the next exercise is also, okay, we are going to learn also, how to identify the m and the c value based on the linear equation given. So in order to calculate the the m and also the c of the linear equation, at first we need to transpose the formula first to make this linear equation as a standard form, okay, standard format, which is y equals mx plus c. And we need to transpose the formula so that the format of the linear equation is a standard form, which is the y equals mx plus c. So now it's not in the standard format. So that means for this question, we need to transpose so that y will be the subject. That means only y is along on the left-hand side. Okay. Okay, so let's try one example. This one, 3x minus 4y is equal to 12. Okay, so in order to make the y as the subject, which number do we need to move first? We have 3x, we have minus 4. There are quite a number of ways to get the answer. Okay, we will try this method. Okay, so that means, okay, since, okay, there are two terms on the left-hand side, so it's better to move this term to the right-hand side first. This one is more easy to move, 3x. So if 3x move to the right-hand side becomes minus 3x. Minus 3x. 12 is still the same. Okay. Then the next step is to move minus 4 to the left. Okay. So on the left-hand side, negative 4 and y is the multiplication relationship. So if negative 4 move to right-hand side becomes divided by negative 4. I can add one more step if you want. It's like this. So it's y is equal to the use formula. So once, okay, this negative 4 has been moved to right hand side, then we have to split this into two terms, right? So one is the first term is negative 3x divided by negative 4. Then the second term is positive 12 divided by negative 4. Okay, so for the first term here on the right hand side, if you simplify, is negative, it should be positive number. Yeah? Negative divided by negative, answer is positive number, 3/4. And then the second term, positive 12 divided by negative 4, so answer is negative 3. So once you have arranged the equation into the standard form of linear equation, then it's easy for you to identify the m and also the c value, right? So the m is 3/4 positive, and then the c is minus 3. Okay. So again, another example is also asking to get the m and c value. Also the same, involve the linear equation, which is this one. Okay. Okay. So for this equation, it's better to move the y on the left hand side, right? And then the x will move to the right hand side simultaneously. So if minus 8y moves to the left, becomes positive 8y. And then on the left, we have 5x, move to the right hand side, becomes minus 5x. Okay, then the next step is to move these 8 here to the left hand side, and to the right hand side becomes divided by 8, divided by positive 8 for both terms on the right hand side. Okay, so the first term, the answer is equal to negative 5 divided by 8, x. And the second term is 20 divided by 8, positive. So simplify. Your first term here is negative 5 divided by 8. I think if you simplify, is that a continuous number? Negative 5 divided by 8, I think is a continuous number. If there is a continuous number, then just leave the answer in the fraction value. Okay? Just present your answer for negative 5/8 in the fraction number. Otherwise, this may create a rounding error. Okay? So we just leave the answer for this part. Okay, how about the C? For the second term, 5 divided by 2 is finite number, which is 2.5. So you can leave the answer in the fraction value or in the decimal number for the C, for this term. Okay, so once we already form the linear equation in the standard form, then we can make the conclusion on the m and also the c, right? So the m value is this one, the coefficient of x power 1. And then the c is the intercept here, which is this number. Okay. So what is the meaning? What is the meaning of m equal to negative 5/8 and c is equal to 5/2? That means, right, for this equation, this linear equation, how do we know this is a linear equation? Because the power of x is only 1. So this is a linear equation, right? So this linear equation has a slope of negative. That means it's downward sloping. Okay? This linear equation has a downward sloping curve. Okay? And then this line, okay, will pass through the y-axis when y is equal to 2.5. Okay? This line will pass through the y-axis at the y equals 2.5. Right? Okay, I got quite slow today. Okay, next section is 5.4 is, okay, how are we going to learn to plot the linear graph, a linear line on the Cartesian plane? Or we can use Excel to draw the line. How? Okay. There are a few steps involved. If you want to draw a line, a linear line on the graph, there are a few steps involved. And this is an additional slide that I just added yesterday. There are a few steps involved. Okay, as we know, in order to draw linear line, we need 2 points. Okay? We need 2 points. So step 1 is we need to use the first point, okay, and assume that the x value is equal to 0. Okay? For the first equation, let's say now, okay, we want to draw this equation. Y is equal to 4x plus 1.
Dah bangun, dah.
Yeah, any question from the online student? Yeah. I think somebody want to ask question. Mirza, do you have any question? Mirza? I think you need to, yeah, you have to mute your mic.
Sikit-sikit ya, I tahu lah.
Mirza, you need to
The
mute
other
your
ones
mic.
is complicated. I don't even understand.
Which part? Mirza, can you hear me? I think Mirza has to mute the mic. Hello, Mirza. Okay, we continue. Okay, let's say now we want to draw a line. A linear equation is the name of this equation is called as y equals 4x plus 1. Let's say, okay. The name of the line is called as y equals 4x plus 1. So how are we going to draw? Okay, in order to draw this line on the Cartesian plane, okay, we need to have 2 points. But how to identify the points? Okay, step 1 is we need to let the x as equal to 0, so that we can get the y. Okay, so that means we need to assume that this x is equal to 0, right? Okay, so if this x is equal to 0, then y is equal to 4 multiplied 0 plus 1. Okay, so that means y will be equal to 1 when the x is equal to 0. So one of the coordinates that will pass through, that will be passed through by this line. The name is called as 0, 1. And this is one of the coordinates, which is along this equation, 0, 1. Okay. Then, okay, step 2 is we have to find another coordinate, okay, which is under the line of this equation. Okay, so how to do so? We can let y is equal to 0 now. Okay. Assume that let y is equal to 0, then we can get the x. So if y is equal to 0, that means this is equal to 0. On the left hand side is equal to 0. 0 is equal to 4x plus 1. I try to increase the size so that you can see. Okay, 0 is equal to 4x plus 1. Then we have to transpose the formula so that the x will be the subject, right? So we move plus 1 to the left hand side becomes minus 1. Okay, then divided by 4. So s is equal to negative 1 over 4. So that means the second point is negative 1 over 4, 0. And this is the second coordinate. So once we know 2 coordinates, at least 2 coordinates, then we can start to use the Cartesian plane to jot down the points, right? So this point, I will use red point, right, to represent the location. How? Okay. So this is when s is equal to 0, y is equal to 1. So we go to here 0, s is equal to 0, y is equal to 1. So this is the coordinate. Okay, the location of first coordinate is there. Then how about second coordinate? Negative 1 over 4, 0. Where is the location? X negative 1 over 4 should be on the left hand side, right? 1 over 4. It should be between here, right? And y is equal to 0. So it should be this point, the yellow point. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So once we jot down these 2 points, we can use ruler to join these 2 points together, right? But you may find that if you join only these 2 points, right? You may find that the line is too short. Yeah, not nice. Okay. So what we can do is we can try to draw the line beyond these 2 lines. Beyond these 2 points, you can just draw longer by using ruler. Okay. To make the line looks longer. And then give a name for this line. It's called as y equals 4x plus 1. So in short, in order to draw the linear equation, there are 4 steps involved. Okay? 4 steps involved. Okay, one example is not enough. Let's try another example. Okay, let's say there's another line linear line is equals y equals 2x minus 5. Okay? Y equals 2x minus 5. Huh? So from this equation, we know that the slope, it should be positive number. That means this slope should be outward sloping, okay? Outward curve. And C is negative 5. So that means that this line will pass through negative 5 at the y-axis. Okay, already given us some idea. Huh? Okay, but still not enough for us to draw the linear line for this line on the graph. Okay, so how should we do? We have to find at least two coordinates, right? So the first coordinate is, we just assume that x is equal to 0. If x is equal to 0, that means this part, the whole thing here is equal to 0. So y is equal to negative 5. Huh? Okay, if x is equal to 0, so we substitute 0 to here. Okay, so y is equal to negative 5. So that means one of the coordinates that will pass through by this line is 0, negative 5. First point. Yeah. Second point is, we assume that y is equal to 0. Okay, if y is equal to 0, so that means on the left-hand side is equal to 0. 2x is equal to 5 positive. So x is equal to positive 2.5. So second coordinate is 2.5, 0. So once we know these 2 points, okay, now we can jot down the location of these 2 points. First point, 0, negative 5 is here, this one. Okay, 0, negative 5 is here. 2.5, 0. When x is 2.5, y is 0. So it should be this point, right? So now we have to use ruler, combine these 2 points together using a straight line. If you feel that this line is not long enough, what you can do is you can extend. Okay, you can extend this line beyond the point. Okay. Then lastly, give a name for this equation, which is equal to y equals to x minus 5. Okay. Okay, next example, I believe you should be study by yourself. Y is equal to negative 2x plus 2, right? Because the m is negative 2, so that means this line will have a negative slope, okay? And will pass through positive, will pass through the y-axis when the y value is equal to 2 positive. But you need to have 2 points in order to draw the straight line for this equation. So far, okay? Okay, right. I think this one you can also study by yourself. Okay, this is extra example. Okay, so far what we learned is only involve one equation, only one equation. Okay, so the next step is, okay, the next section is we're going to learn how to solve the equation, 2 equations, okay, that involve 2 different variables at the same time. So the unknown variables can be x and y. So in order to calculate the x and y value, we need at least 2 equations in order to get the x and y value. So let's try. Okay, before we go for this, okay, it's like this. Okay, now we have, when you see this graph, you may find that the y line has an equation of y equals x plus 4. And this red line, okay, is called as y equals 6 minus x, right? And these 2 lines meet each other at where? At here, this point. They intersect at this point. So this point is called the intersection point. At this intersection point, both lines will have the same x and y value. That is the meaning. At the intersection point, both of the lines will have the similar x and also the y value. And in order to calculate the x and y value, which is this point, there are 2 ways to get the answer. You can either use graph or you can use the mathematical equation in order to solve the problem. Okay, personally, I prefer to use mathematical equation in order to solve this problem. Maybe I can show you using the mathematical equation first before we use the graph. How to identify the x and y value for this intersection point. So since like, okay, if that's the case, then I can conclude x plus 4. I try to use the mathematical equation in order to solve the problem. This is equal to 6 minus x. Okay. So in order to identify this intersection point, I can say that, okay, x plus 4 is from here, is equal to 6 minus x, which is from here, from this line. Right? Then what's the next step? Next step is we can try to move all of the x on the left-hand side, and then the number on the right-hand side. If that's the case, this minus x, we can move to the left-hand side because plus x. Okay? X plus x. Okay, on the right-hand side, we have 6 originally, okay, on the right-hand side. Now we have to move this 4 to the right becomes minus 4. Now I try to simplify this. So 2x is equal to 2 positive. So x to 1. Okay, so that means like for this coordinate, the x value is equal to 1, value 1. How about the y? Okay, y value. In order to get the y value, we can just substitute the y value, the x equal to 1 into either one of the equation in order to solve the problem. Okay, if there's a case, I just simply choose this equation, right? So once we know the x value, then we can just copy one of the equation and substitute the value of x. Okay. So y is equal to 5 positive. Okay, so let us check whether it's true or not by using comparing the graph. X is 1, y is equal to 5 positive. Okay, so let us check graphically. Is that true? At this point, x is 1, and then y is equal to 5 positive. Yeah. Okay, confirm your answer. Okay, so let's try to use graph now in order to identify the x and y value by using graph now. Okay, so assume that, okay, there are two equations now. Okay, the first equation, the name is called as y equals 2x minus 5. And then the second equation name is called as y equals negative 2x plus 3. Okay, you are asked to identify the x and y value simultaneously by using graph now. Using graph. Okay, so if using graph, that means we need to draw these two lines on the graph, same graph paper. That means on the same Cartesian plane. Okay, so we have to do step by step. Okay, so we start from this equation first. Okay, draw this line first. Draw the first line, right? So as we know, in order to draw a line, we need at least two coordinates. Okay? Two coordinates. So how to do so? Okay, the first step is we have to assume x value for this line is equal to 0. So if this x is equal to 0, so that means y is equal to -5, put here. Okay, so that means the first point is 0, -5. Right. Step 2, we have to assume this y is equal to 0. So x is equal to +5/2. All right, so the second coordinate is 2.5, 0. So once we know these two coordinates, we jot down these 2 points on the graph paper or the Cartesian plan. Okay, where are the points? 0, -5 is here. Okay, and then 2.5, 0 is here. Right. So once we know these 2 points, jot down the points, and then try to draw a long linear equation line. And then give a name for this equation. Y is equal to 2x minus 5. Okay. And then how about this second equation? Also the same thing. Repeat the same step. Identify the 2 coordinates for this line. So get 0, 3, and also another one is for 1.5, 0. Okay. So jot down the points, the 2 points, and then combine these 2 points using a straight line and give a name for this line. Okay. Then lastly is we go to identify where is the intersection point between these 2 lines now. Intersection point between these 2 lines. Where is the point location? Okay, you may find that it's here, right? Here. So what is the coordinate at the intersection point? Coordinate means the x and the y value, right, at the intersection point. Okay, so the x value is equal to 2 positive. How to get 2 here? Okay, if you draw a vertical line until touching the x-axis, you may find that the x value is 2 at this point. Okay, and then how about the y value? Y value, then you have to draw a horizontal line. Okay, from this point to the left hand side, you may find that the y value is -1. Okay. So this is how you identify the coordinate. We call it the intersection point between the 2 linear equations. Okay, so just now we already used the graph to solve the problem. Can we use mathematical method in order to solve the problem? Yes, you may. Right? So what can we do is, since these 2 points we know that will meet each other, so that means okay, x plus 4 is equal to 6 minus x. Right? So x is equal to 1, and the y value is equal to 5. So the intersection point is 1, 5. So there are 2 methods for you to solve the simultaneous equation problem. You can either use graph or you can either use the mathematical equation. I personally encourage to use the mathematical equation method. Okay. Okay. Something that I like to share with you also. If the 2 linear equation have the same slope, what's the meaning? If that same slope, right, that means these 2 lines will be parallel and will never meet each other. Okay, let's say this. Y is equal to 2x minus 5. Another one is 2x plus 3. You may find that both slope both equations have the slope of 2, okay? Positive 2. So that means that these 2 slopes will be outward sloping, okay? And they will be parallel. Parallel means same slope, okay? And will never meet each other, these 2 lines. So this is something interesting that you may need to know. Okay? The second part is, second extra note is this one. In fact, right, this one, this equation, the 2y equals 4x minus 10. If you simplify, in fact, it's equal to y equals 2x minus 5. Okay, same meaning, same equation. You just like need to simplify only. Okay, last part for today, that will be break-even analysis. So far, we already learned how to solve the simultaneous equation using the graph or using the mathematical equation. Okay, next is we are going to apply this knowledge, the simultaneous equation knowledge, into break-even analysis. Okay, so before we know how to apply into the break-even analysis, we need to know first some concept, basic concept in business world. So what is the meaning of break-even? A break-even in business is when running business, there is no profit and no loss. No profit and no loss in running a business. They call as break-even. At the break-even point, whatever received by the businessman is equal to whatever spent by the businessman. So that means the income is exactly equal to the expenses at the break-even. Okay, so what is the meaning of income here? Income is the revenue. Revenue received by the businessman is called as income. So how to calculate the income here? There is a formula. Formula is equal to the selling price per unit, okay, for one production, multiply with the quantity of production being sold out. Okay, so I repeat, income means the selling price per unit, multiply the quantity of units sold out. Okay. So the equation that we give is equal to I equals S minus multiply the N. I equals S multiply the N in order to get the income value. Okay, on the other hand, on the extreme, what's the meaning of expenses here? Expenses means spending or the cost, total cost occurred in running the business. Okay. So generally, there are two costs occur, okay, when running the business. And these two costs are called as the fixed cost and variable cost. Fixed cost and variable cost. So what is the meaning of fixed cost here? Fixed costs are the cost that will occur consistently, okay, same level, no matter how many numbers of production a businessman produce. Okay, it's 0 unit, 100 unit, 1,000 units, but the fixed cost always consistent, always occur at the same level. So how are the examples of fixed costs here? Fixed costs are like, for instance, the rental. Okay, if you want to run a business, maybe you need to rent an office, right? So this rental is considered as fixed cost. Another example of fixed cost will be the full-time staff. Full-time staff also considered as fixed cost. And some other example would be the salary, okay, of the manager, okay, is also considered as a fixed cost. Okay, if I draw the graph, you may find that the fixed cost is a horizontal line. Okay, horizontal line. So that means the cost will be always the same. Okay, no matter how many quantities of production being sold out, the fixed cost always the same. Horizontal. And bear in mind, this fixed cost will be occur, okay, even though the business does not manufacture or sort out any unit of production. If the unit of production is equal to 0, the fixed cost will continue to occur. All right, where the x is equal to 0. So this is a special characteristic of fixed cost. Okay, then how about variable cost? Variable cost is the cost of increase when the unit of production increase. So you may find that the variable cost is outward sloping, okay, outward sloping curve. But when the production is equal to 0 unit, there is no variable cost. When the production is equal to 0 unit, there is no production cost. But the variable cost will increase when the quantity of production increases. Okay. So what are the examples of variable cost? Let's say, okay, if the business is running this soft drink, cola, okay? So for cola, the raw materials to produce cola will be the variable cost, like sugar, water, and these are variable costs for producing cola. Okay. Okay, so if we sum up the variable cost and the fixed cost, that will be the total cost. Okay, so total cost is equal to the fixed cost plus the total variable cost. So if I draw the line of the total cost, that will be this one. It's start from here. You may find that the total cost line is start from here. It start from this fixed cost. Okay, and then it's parallel with the variable cost. Okay, parallel with the variable cost. So that means Sam's law. Interesting, right? So that means the M value will be the same, right? For the total cost and the variable cost. Same M value. But the total cost and the fixed cost have the same C value, remember? The total cost and the fixed cost have the same C value, the intersect. The intersect and the y-axis is the same. Okay, so far so good. Okay, so let us try. Maybe we can. Okay, so we are able to identify the. Okay, okay. Last one is okay. Before I move on, okay. If you want to know, then how many quantities that have to be solved up in order to get break even? Then what can we do is you can go to the intersection point between the revenue line and also the total cost line. Okay, which is here. So this point is called as the break-even point. Break-even point. So at this break-even point, we can identify the break-even level of production. Where? Here. Okay. This line level, this point is called as the break-even level of production. So at this break-even level of production, the business will achieve no profit and no loss. Okay, break-even. So that means that in order to get break-even, the company must at least produce at least this level of quantity and able to sort out this quantity at this level, okay, in order to get break even. So what happens if quantity being sort out is less than this level? If less than this level, you may find that the cost, okay, is greater than the revenue. I try to make it longer. Okay. Okay. If the quantity being sold out is less than this end, you may find that the cost is more than the revenue. So that means making a loss. Right? If the end of production is more than this level, more than the break even, you may find that the revenue is more than the cost. That means it's making profit. Okay? So the difference between the revenue and the cost is the profit. The difference between the cost and the revenue is called as the loss. Okay, this part is the loss, which is the fixed cost. So far so good, Okay, so let us try to study in more detail, one by one. Okay. So if you want to identify the break-even level for the production, you can either use graph or you can either use the formula, right? So let us try to learn how to use graph first, in order to identify the break-even level, right? Okay. Since this is going to apply to the business world, it's better to have 3 points at least. Okay, at least 3 points for drawing the revenue equation and also the cost equation. So how to identify the points here? Okay, the first point is we just assume that the production level is equal to 0 and 0, okay? Which is the X value is equal to 0. And then the second point is we have to use this formula. Okay, second point is we assume that, okay, we use this formula, which is 2 multiply the fixed cost divided by the selling price per unit as the second point. Okay, and then the third point is we'll use this point, which is 4 multiply fixed cost divided by selling price per unit. And we can round the number into the whole number, for this, all the X values. Okay, so let us try to start from example number 7. We try to analyze the question together. All right. So this question is, a company manufactures widgets that it sells for $270 each. So that means the selling price per unit for one production is equal to 270. Okay, selling price per unit. Okay, next sentence. The cost to manufacture each reagent is 160. So that means this is the okay, you have to read the whole sentence. 160, and the company has weekly overheads of $3,200. Okay. So what is the meaning of how this sentence? So this sentence will tell you two different costs. One is the variable cost, one is the fixed cost. Okay. So in this case here, the variable cost per unit is 160. Variable cost per unit. And then the fixed cost is the overhead. Okay, it's the fixed cost. It's 3,300. So that means no matter what is the unit of production, the overhead will remain the same. Okay, it will be consistent throughout the different level of production. The fixed cost is always the same, 3,300. Okay. So now is from this information given. What did I put here? Okay, part one, we have to determine the income equation. Income equation. So what is the formula I have to use in order to identify the income equation? Formula is using selling price per unit multiplied quantity, right? In order to get the income equation, so what formula is selling price per unit multiplied quantity. Okay, so selling price per unit is this one, 270. Quantity, we can just simply use N to represent quantity. Yeah. If you don't want to use N, you can use X. Also, okay, acceptable. Yeah. It's referred to the X. Okay. It's also fine. Okay, part two. Determine the expense equation. Expense equation. Okay, don't forget the expenses involve two costs, which are the total variable cost and also the fixed cost. Okay, the variable cost should be the variable cost per unit multiplied quantity, number of quantity sold. So we have to use 160 multiply N to get the total variable cost. So remember, I have to multiply N because 160 is only variable cost for one unit. Okay, but if the company produces more, then more variable cost will occur. So total variable cost is 160 multiply N. Plus the fixed cost. Fixed cost is the overhead, 3,300. So this is the equation to form the cost for this company. Yeah. Okay, part three. Part three is you are asked to prepare a table of values for both income and expense equation. Okay. So that means it's like we need to calculate the coordinates. We need to identify the coordinates, okay, for income equation and also the cost equation. So for each equation, we need to identify the coordinates. Okay, so in order to present, it's better to have three coordinates. Okay, get three coordinates for each equation. Okay, then we have to decide. Then what are the coordinates that we need to have? All right. Okay, it's better to have the first x, the first x value is equal to 0, the origin point, all right? So we can use the first x, which is the n, is equal to 0, and then the second x or the second n value, okay, will be 2. 2 is the constant number, multiplied with the fixed cost divided by the variable cost. This is the selling price per unit. Yeah? Fixed cost divided by selling price per unit. So you'll get about 24.44. It's better for us to round this number into whole number, okay? So that it's easy for us to do calculation. So we can just round to 25. Okay. Some students may ask, can we round to 24? Yes, okay. Okay, because we just need a rough number, okay, for the x value. So you can either use 24 or 25. It's up to you. 24 also okay. Okay, then how about the third point? Third point is we can assume that x is equal to 4 multiplied with the fixed cost divided by a selling price per unit, which is about 48.89, right? So we can try to round, becomes 49 or 50. 49 or 50 is up to you. We just need to choose one point. Okay. And the reason is so that we can have a longer line when we draw. Okay. So once we have decided the 3x, the next step is we have to identify the y value. In this case, is the I value. The y value or the I value in this case. Okay, so when x is equal to 0 or the n is equal to 0, that means the I value will be equal to 200 is equal to 0 as well. Okay. When the x is 0, the n is 0. So 270 multiplied 0, I is equal to 0. So the first coordinate is 0, 0. Okay. Second coordinate is, let us assume that n is equal to 25. So that means the I is equal to 6750. So this will be the second coordinate. That is going to be passed through by the income equation. Okay. And the third point is when n is equal to 50, I is equal to this number. So this is the third point, okay, that we can identify, whereby the income equation will pass through. All right, okay. Then we build another table for the C equation, for the expense or the cost equation. Okay, so the first point is when n is equal to 0, C will be equal to 160 multiplied 0 plus 3,300. So you'll get 3,300 for the first C value. Okay. Right. Second point is when n is equal to 25, C is equal to 7,300. This is the second point. Yeah. Third point is when n is equal to 50, y is equal to this value, 7,000. Okay, let me see. Let us check the answer. Is that correct? $160 multiply 50 and then plus 3,300. Can somebody help me to check the answer for the third C value? Is that equal to 7,800 or equal to 11,300? Which one is correct? Can somebody help me to check the answer? Oh. Too small, huh? Screen. Third point, okay? We substitute 50 into the n. Replace 50 into the n. Huh? So what is the C value we get? Can somebody try to use calculator? Check the answer. So what is the drawing? Okay, thanks. So it means some that here. Okay. For 13001, so this one is equal to 11300. So that means the third point, okay, that will pass through by the cost equation is 50, 11,300. Okay, so once we have built these two tables, we can proceed to question number 4 now. Plot the income and expense equation on a set of axes. That means we need to plot the income equation and also the cost equation on the same graph paper. That's the meaning. Okay, so how to do so, yeah? Okay, in order to draw the income equation, we need to have 3 points already, yeah? We need 3 points. So we have to jot down the 3 points here based on the table that we already built in part 3, yeah? So the first point is 0, 0. This is the second point. This is third point, yeah? Okay, these 3 points, we need to jot down in the Cartesian plan, jot down. Okay, and then combine these 3 points together and give the name for this equation. It's called as I equals 270n. Okay, then how about the C? This C equation is also formed by 3 points. So jot down. All right, and then combine these 3 points by using a ruler. All right, then give a name for this equation. Remember to write down. Okay. Then go to the intersection point between these two lines. Right. Then you can use ruler. Start to draw. Okay, you can. Okay, this is the intersection point, right? Okay, then you can start to use ruler and draw a vertical line until touching the x-axis. So you may find that actually is equal to 30 n. N is equal to 30. So what is the meaning n equal to 30? That means that is the break-even level of production. Okay, so in order to achieve break-even, this company must be able to produce 30 and sort out these 30 units of production in order to get break-even. Okay, 30 is the minimum level of units that have to be sorted out in order to achieve break-even. Okay, and the break-even point is 30. And how about the income? Like, okay, if the company managed to sort out 30, what is the income value? The income will be 270 multiplied with 30, so you'll get 8,100. So that means no profit and no loss at this level. Huh? Okay, so just now, the method that we used was the graphical method. Huh? Okay, how about if you want to do it in the faster way? Yes, using graph that way. If you are using the mathematical equation, that will be faster. Okay, so if at the break-even, we know that income is equal to cost, right? So if there's a case, I is equal to C. So that means like 270n is equal to 160n plus 3,300. Okay, so at this stage here, what can we do is we can try to combine all the n on the same island. Okay, on the same side. The number with the n move to the right hand side. So we move 160n to the left. And then subtract this to n. You get 110n. Then lastly, move 110 to the right hand side because divide. So n is equal to 30. Okay. So if the level of production is 30, we can identify the income value. Income will be 270 multiplied with 30, and I'll get 8100. Okay. Any more example? Let me see. Okay, so for example 8 is about the same as example 7. You can just go through by yourself. This one is using the mathematical. This one is using the graph method in order to solve the problem for break-even level of production. Or you can also use the mathematical method in order to solve the to identify the break-even point. Okay, so that means we already finished. Okay, the syllabus for this chapter. Okay, so in short, we already learned Cartesian plan, linear equation, right? And then how to solve the linear equation problem, how to draw the linear equation on the graph paper, okay? How to solve two equations at the same time, that means simultaneously, that means calculate x and y value at the same time, okay, for two linear equations. And lastly is we also apply the simultaneous equation concept into the break-even analysis. Okay. So for break-even analysis, make sure that you must know what is the meaning of break-even. Right? Break-even means no profit and no loss when running business. And so that means at the break-even, income is equal to the expenses. Okay. Okay. Last thing is that I'd like to share with you is about our test 2. Okay. So our test 2 will cover until this chapter. Okay. How we cover until today? Test 2. So your online test 2 will cover from the financial mathematics part 1, part 2, plus the algebra chapter, and plus this chapter. Okay. Okay. And then how about the day? Okay, because on Monday, coming on Monday, 4th July, I think some of the students got class in the afternoon. Yeah. So if that's the case, I'll just change to Tuesday. Okay, is that okay for you? Tuesday? Since some of you have class on Monday, so I just change to Tuesday. Then we are going to start at 2 to 3, okay? But I'm going to also allow some latecomers. You still can finish until 3:30 for this test. You can start at 2:15 and then finish at 3:15, or start at 2:30 and or finish at 3:30. Okay? The last time for you to finish is 3:30 on campus. Okay, so the format is the same, 20 multiple choice question. Each question consists of 4 responses for you to choose the correct answer. Okay, then lastly is this one. For the tutorial question, if you really want to try, you can also try the tutorial question, exercise 5.1 and the rest for this chapter, if you want. And then plus, what else? Okay, so how are you going to do revision for your online test 2? Online test 2, okay, how can you do is you can try to do the practice exercise 2 on campus, which is available under the module week number 11, I think. Okay, you can go to do the practice exercise 2 questions. You can attempt many times as you like, okay? Because the format of the question quite similar to the online test 2. Okay, last one is about your project 2. Project 2, the due date is 26 June, which is coming Friday, 4 o'clock. Are you okay or not with your project now? How is the progress for your project 2? Some students already have some appointment with me for consultation. So tomorrow I'm free from 2 to 4. Okay. In fact, I have no class tomorrow, so if you've got any problem, you can just have appointment with me anytime. But I know that most of you don't have class from 2 to 4 o'clock. So probably I think for relatively, I haven't responded to your email. Or maybe we can meet at 2 o'clock using the online or this Microsoft Teams meeting link. So for other groups, if you've got any problem, you can just contact me, then we can have a meeting through Microsoft Teams to discuss the project too. If the project is still rushing, okay, if you cannot finish or cannot submit 12, try your best to submit, but it's okay. I believe some of you may not be able to submit, so they try to submit before 5 o'clock on Friday. I try to extend again the deadline to 5 o'clock Friday. Okay, on Friday, if you feel that okay, you want to submit later, please inform me, all right, so that I can allow you to submit slightly late. Okay, this coming tutorial, I'll go through a summary on this online test tool. Do a summary, then we can discuss the tutorial questions. Any topic? Okay. Any other questions? Before we call it, can you let me check the online students? Okay. Any question from the online students?
No question.
Yeah, Brian. Yes. Good day. I think some. Well, today we have about 40 online students.
Sir.
Yes.
You said we have another class tomorrow.
Pardon, I could not hear.
Oh, sorry.
Ivan?
You said we have another class tomorrow?
Oh no, tutorial.
A tutorial class?
Tutorial. Yeah, we have tutorial. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Tutorial. Yeah. But for Valerie, I think you emailed me this morning, right? Valerie group, your group 1, want to have a discussion with me. They probably can, yeah, we can discuss at 2 o'clock tomorrow. I'll reply your email later on for this Valerie and Bernice, I think. After using both, I can confirm you get the same answer, Brian. Yeah, yeah, correct. Yeah, if you're using the mathematical equation and also using the graph, you'll get the same x and y value, correct, Brian?
No, that was from that formula, the y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1 thing. So
Correct, yes, correct, yeah. But if you start from y2, then that means your denominator must start from x2, huh? y2, x2. Okay.
yes.
You start your formula with y1, then your denominator should be x1. Okay, if no other questions, then we just call that. Thank you for coming. Remember to sign your name for the physical students. Please sign your name in the attendance list. If no other question, then we just call it there.
Have a nice day.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you, Brian.
Oh.
Okay, I'll stop recording now.
Thank you, sir. Bye bye.
Okay, bye-bye. Yeah, bye-bye. See you.